Yeah, we're up. We are. Our audio should be coming in right now. I faded this out.
We are live.
Okay,
Yeah, we are.
cool. All right. What is going on, dear viewers? This is your gracious host, Kaine Walker, returning with another episode of the Monkey Paw, where we document the downfall of mainstream Western entertainment, joined by my two co-hosts. Feel free to introduce yourselves.
Hey, I know it's been a while since I've been on here. Western Po Boy finally coming back at you after a long hiatus. I'll talk about that in some updates if at the end of this. Hopefully, Kane will have the time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can give an update. What's up, Toast? I see you in the chat.
And Soup's back for another episode.
The most humble introduction yet. You know, I'm Soup. I'm just here. I'm just happy to be here.
I am happy to be here. I'm always happy to be here.
Good. Back by my PS5.
Your PS5?
Yeah, there's an attachment I bought for it and it fell off. Had to put it back on. But anyway,
motherfuckers, leave me alone. I'm eating at the same time, you little shits. Leave me alone.
what happened?
Pussy fucking swimming. Honk honk.
Okay then.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but we're just gonna move on.
It's a fucking pun. It's both an innuendo and a pun about cats. I'm swimming in pussy. It's so bad they're trying to get in my dinner plate. Little asshole.
Oof. Yeah, I've had that issue before. Anyways.
Get out of my desk, motherfucker.
All right, I'm gonna bring the screen up and cover our first topic. This one's gonna be brief because I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on it. Hang on. Right one.
Is it the sequel to one of our last topics?
Yeah, it's that one. But for some reason the window is not showing up. I gotta recapture it for no fucking reason.
And that topic is just gonna give you problems in and out. And off the internet.
There we go.
Well, let's get through this heinous turkey. How about, shall we?
Right.
Oh, so this is stuff I want to hear on my drive home. Oh, was she responding to what Wes's little joke?
Yeah, that's what she was responding to. So
at least you got earbuds in.
You're welcome.
I hope she's playing it through the radio and she doesn't have fucking earbuds in. I think she's driving.
Yeah, she's driving. Anyways.
Anyway.
Yeah. So last time, pretty much last episode, I mentioned how much I was loving Dragon's Dogma, but that was very early into my playthrough. Well, not very early. It was around 12 hours, and I remember being pretty positive in my review.
Yeah, you were straight up loving it.
Yeah, I was, because like the gameplay was still as solid as I remember. However, the flaws and the problems I had with the first game are still in it. I might have mentioned that, but I didn't grasp the extent of it until I pretty much reached 80 hours of play. And there's some things that were kind of like sticking out to me about the game. Most of it has to do with the director of the game. I forgot his name, the Japanese guy. And I don't even know if I'm gonna read most of this article or at all. I'm just kind of using it as kind of like a centerpiece or whatever, just to show you what I'm talking about. But I don't think Dragon's Dogma 2 was worth the 12-year wait. I really don't.
How much you had to pay for Dragon's Dogma 2? Was it worth the price?
It was $70. I mean, would I say you'd be wasting your money if you paid $70? Yes and no, but here's why. I think it's worth buying. I don't think it's worth $70, especially not for the hype that was built up around the game, given its 12-year wait for the sequel. Because the thing is, some things are just downgrades, and a lot of issues people had with the first game still exist, like the fast travel system. And I'm gonna get into the director's mindset behind making the game as I'll talk about that, because that's really the biggest problem with the game. Right. The amount of fucking tedium that's in it. When you couple the fact that you have to walk everywhere with the limited stamina of your character, with the repeat enemies you see around the map, which I gave the first game a pass on that because it was their first actual shot at a somewhat traditional RPG experience. You know what I mean? And I understand the point of regions on a map. You're going to see the same enemies because it's the same fucking region. What people don't understand is that extreme enemy variety for certain aspects of a game doesn't really make sense. But at the very least, when you changed regions, like when you went to Batal, which is the desert region, there could have been different enemies there instead of just like different palette swaps of the same enemies. Like, I liked the way they did the Saurians this time around. You had the traditional Saurians. They were the green guys with the staffs. You had the poison aspids, I think they're called. Fuck, I forgot what they're called. But the poison ones, and then you have the ones that crawl on their bellies and they're made of rocks. That's cool. But then you have the regular ogre from the first biome, and then the same ogre with long black fur in the second Batal region, and it just kind of feels like a palette swap because it is, all the moves are the same and stuff like that.
Hey, check real quick if your background music is still on. Toast made a comment about that.
Still on? I turned it off.
Her. You still hearing background stuff, Toast?
Really shouldn't, because it's muted and it's turned off.
That's weird.
I have no idea why you're able to hear it still.
Wait, so is Dragon's Dogma 2 still made by the same people as Part 1?
Yeah, it's made by
Or is it like a different
it's not a different team.
No, but I mean like the directors.
Yeah, that's why most of the gameplay has been preserved. But my problem with the mindset that went into the game is that it feels like the creators are like basically forcing you into an experience, and they don't seem to be big fans of player freedom, because they don't give you the ability to make multiple characters. They don't give you multiple game saves. They don't give you a real fast travel system, even though it doesn't really make sense from a world building perspective. Because here's the thing, right? The way people play RPGs is they want to experience the game as multiple different classes. And people's argument against having multiple characters is that you can change your vocation at any time. I mean, that's cool, but what if I don't want to do that? What if I just want to play as a dedicated vocation the entire game and make like different characters that practice like a strict vocation? Like, why can't I play the game the way I want to play it instead of the way the creators want me to play it? Because that's the reason why. That's the reason why they don't have a real fast travel system. Because according to the director, fast travel discourages exploration. And here's my thing with that. First of all, no, the fuck it doesn't. It encourages exploration. That's the first thing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know fast travel can look lazy, but like it does help.
If you use it all the time, it's lazy and it does remove the experience. But
that's my right, though. I should be able to do that if I want to play if I'm a fucking idiot that buys an open world RPG and doesn't want to explore, I should have the right. You should have the right
to do that. I'm not denying it. That's not my point. My point is, yes, those who screech about that have a point, but it depends on the context.
Because that doesn't affect their experience. Like,
that doesn't affect their individual experience. Why are you bitching about others and how to do what they want to do? Exactly. Why are you doing that? I'm just saying, if for some people that want to explore, doing that takes away from the experience, but in a certain context. But that does not apply to everyone. These kind of games are meant to just fuck around one moment or explore another. They're designed that way. That's why they're RPGs, they're role playing games. You play a role.
This is the same argumentation people use when they describe games like Darksiders 1 or God of War, when they say, oh, you can just mash square or use the same combo the entire time. But it's like, you're making the active choice to do that. You can't blame the game for your choice to do that. It's very stupid when people do that. Like they say like fast travel, because the way it comes across is that they abuse fast travel. So they think everyone else abuses fast travel.
Exactly.
Like, no.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the abuse of fast travel, can, in those particular contexts, can take away from the experience, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone, necessarily
everyone does it.
Exactly. And the reason why I think that philosophy behind game design is a problem, it's not only because it kind of does kind of lead into the microtransaction portion of it, because here's the thing.
It's a slippery slope for it.
Say what?
It's a slippery slope for it. You're about to explain why.
I mean, yeah, so like blending that mindset with microtransactions makes it so that creators take away certain options on purpose so that you'll pay for them. I understand that, but you can't look at microtransactions in a vacuum. Like, what kind of microtransactions are they? You know what I mean? Because like when the game first came out, people immediately bitched about the option to buy other things, which was silly, because when you looked at the microtransaction list, it was a bunch of shit you didn't even need to buy. And it's like, okay, these shouldn't really exist, but I mean, if they're gonna give people the option to buy it, then I don't really see a huge problem with it. I'm not gonna buy that shit. The most useful item on the list was like the fucking port crystal, and you can get everything on that list. You can get in game like within a couple hours.
Yep.
So like, I really didn't understand why people were bitching. It's like, just don't fucking buy it. The only time microtransactions are a real problem, it's when it's pay to win and you can't really experience the full breadth of the game unless you buy something. That's the only time.
Like Dead Space 3?
Or any gacha game or MMORPG, really. Like, if it's like pay to win is the only bad form of microtransaction. And that's only the case if it's a competitive experience. Really it. So I like people looking at microtransactions as a whole and calling them bad just shows their lack of knowledge when it comes to games in general, not even just video games. Like booster packs are fucking microtransactions. You have a small chance of getting the rare card out of a pack of fucking Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards, but no one ever bitched about it.
Right. That's why I stopped buying them. It's why I stopped buying them years ago, because
what's funny about the...
I was trying to get the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh cards, specific ones, and through those packs, but I realized it's a money pit. This is a bit of a scheme.
Loot boxes are the devil. It's like, no, you have no fucking self-control.
And I just like realized, okay, they're trying to sink me in to keep buying these fuckers because they know I'm gonna have to pay out the wazoo to try to find them. So I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna give them any more. Screw them. And that's what it boils down to. Anyone who says anything different can shove it up their ass. They're wrong.
You know what's funny about the microtransaction talk? It reminds me of when I noticed the transitioning with like Injustice or Mortal Kombat games, where they started putting in a bunch of like loot boxes or gears and like and then microtransactions like that, and I was just like, it does come off as confusing for like fighting games to start implementing all that stuff to me, because
I
all that in the first place.
Different.
I personally absolutely hate the fucking notion of microtransaction because of what became of it at the expense of the ability to own our own games and shit that they used this for.
That's a different topic than microtransactions. That's
right.
Like the digital games period. Like, we don't really own our games because they're completely digital.
And unless you buy them through GOG or something, that's different. But still, everybody else, it's not the case, And they facilitate this kind of bullshit, and they use they use microtransactions as part of that system, right? It's a misuse of it, really. I mean, a TGX Archive did a video about it years ago when he talked about it. He ranted about this stuff, about why most modern gamings can suck a dick. But I agree that if somebody wants microtransactions to be a thing, let them have it. Those who don't want it, let them have the fucking choice. Shit like that. And don't use it to try to snake in some bullshit, fundamental level like so many game companies.
Thank God they included this part because so they actually do get into the fast travel in this article. Because here's the thing, right? What actually discourages exploration is the fact that I know I'm gonna have to walk 500 fucking miles to do a quest. The perfect example of this shit that I ran into while playing the game is this quest that you have for this elven archer, right? Like, apparently elves in this game suck at archery because their bows are are not made for accuracy somehow. They don't really explain how elven bows suck. They don't really explain it because they look the exact same. They look the exact same as human bows. Go ahead.
Like, that's just so weird. That is so weird. I've never heard of like a fantasy world where elves have a disadvantage in archery of all things.
I think that was them trying to be subversive.
The non-fairy type of elves, of course.
It really didn't work. Like, apparently their bows aren't made for accuracy and they feel for the shot instead of using actual practical mechanics. And human bows turn out to be better, and humans have better technique in archery. It didn't really work. It really didn't. I don't know. I don't know why they were doing that. It didn't really work at all. Especially when you get a Meister skill from the best archer in the Elven village. And it's kind of like, I thought they sucked at archery. Why am I getting a skill from people that suck? Whatever. Anyway, back to the point. The reason why the fast travel system really stuck out to me in the first game is because, well, like I said, you're running around a huge fucking map comparative to the amount of stamina you have to sprint across it. And you don't have a mount. And they fucked around and made the map, I would say, 2.5 times bigger than the first game, and there's still no fast traveling mounts. Again, that was a really big complaint from me about the first game. So, like, in this quest, he's curious about human bows, but doesn't want to betray his tradition by buying one, so you buy it for him, and that's how you start the quest. Then you have to go to him and demonstrate the bow. You have to change it to the archer vocation for this. By the way, if you don't do that before you go there, you have to walk all the way the fuck back if you don't have a fairy stone.
Shit.
Hit the
Hell
your vocation
no.
And go back. Thank God I changed to archer before doing it, right? That's not even the worst part, right? So you walk all the way to the Malachite Forest, which is far as fuck, and going through this forest is long as fuck. Like, the forest looked cool and everything. I enjoyed fighting the enemies or whatever, but all the fucking walking, dude. It was so long, right? That's not even the worst part. So after I demonstrate the bow to him and I complete the first part of the quest, I have to walk all the way back to fucking...
And then you have to walk another 500 miles back.
Right, bro. You have to walk all the way back to fucking Vernworth, because there's no ox cart that goes to this location, by the way. You have to fucking walk or use a fairy stone, which there are very little of. We'll get on fairy stones in a second. So there's a part 2 of this quest. I'm back in Vernworth. He finds me in town and says, the trial of archery is coming up and I want you to be there. So what does that fucking mean? I have to walk some fucking more back to the Malachite Forest through the same fucking enemies, through the same route. I think I had to do it at night because it just happened to get dark while I was on the way there. That's not necessarily the game's fault, but again, all the fucking walking. Navigating at night is difficult. It should be, but it's still annoying because I don't have the option to not travel at night at this point. Because, like, I'm so far removed from town, I would have to turn around to get an ox carter or something. And I don't want to fucking extend the length of this fucking adventure. Interesting point, right? There was a part of the map on my way back to the Malachite Forest that I really wanted to explore. But exploring that part of the map would involve me turning around and going there to reveal that portion of the map. And since there's no fast travel, I said, fuck that. I don't want to make this trip any longer than it has to be. So if you want to talk about fast travel encouraging exploration, that's exactly how it does encourage exploration. Because you can fast travel to someone that's nearby a location you haven't discovered and walk from there and then warp back to the place you've already fucking been. But anyway. So
Says that sounds more time consuming than this red light.
bro, this one quest was so fucking, it took too much time for what you had to do. You talk to a guy, you give him an item, you go demonstrate that item, you go back to town, he finds you, you go back to talk to him again, and during this trial of archery, which the details of this quest aren't important, the highlight of this is all the fucking walking you need to do to complete 4 fucking steps. Right, you save his sister from this ogre. Yeah. All right, the quest is done, and then you get a port crystal because during this mission they show you the secret elven. The elven village is actually pretty cool. All the elves there only speak Elvish, and you don't speak their language, so it all comes up on screen as some gobbledygook that you can't fucking understand, which doesn't really matter because all the menu options are the same. Yeah, all the menu options are the same, so it doesn't really matter. But it's a neat detail. I appreciate shit like that. And you can have a pawn in your party that speaks Elvish, so it translates it for you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. So, like, how did the game help you out with translating what the elves are saying? Yeah, do they have like another character before you, or
your pawns can learn the language of the elves? I kind of wish that you could, but they have this system where your pawn can be a specialist in a certain skill, like logistics, where they craft items for you, healing, where they use curatives on you, Elvish speaking, where, you know, you can translate the language of the Elven village and stuff like that. So that detail is pretty cool. I like it. But here's the thing. At the end of this quest, you get a port crystal, right? And this is where we're going to get into the fairy stones. And I might even read this fast travel section because it might bring up a lot of the same things I do, right? So you get a port crystal. You're obviously going to use this port crystal on this fucking village because who the fuck wants to walk back here? I fucking didn't. I put it right down in the middle of the town. And you need a fairy stone to be able to travel to a port crystal. It's the game's fake ass fast travel system. And here's my problem with fairy stones and port crystals. The idea that every major town in this world wouldn't have one is fucking retarded. Like, people would be setting up port crystals everywhere, and fairy stones would be the hottest commodity in that entire fucking world. They'd be insanely cheap, and people would want to mass produce them. Because if you've taken an ox cart in this game, the amount of fuck shit that can happen between whatever town you leave and where you're going is insane. The fucking pathways in this game are straight up monster infested. You can have your fucking ox cart destroyed by a griffin or a cyclops or an ogre or a band of fucking goblins or wolves or fucking bandits or ghosts or fucking more goblins or zombies. Bro, there's so much shit that can happen. I'm not even fucking exaggerating. Who the fuck would take an ox cart in this world? Who?
Jeez.
Like, that's
pretty
my problem with it. It doesn't make any sense from a world building perspective. Anytime you could fast travel, you absolutely fucking would. It's just a fact. Somebody would come up with a fairy stone that doesn't break when you use it. It would happen. Go ahead.
Jeez.
It sounds pretty AIDS.
It is like the game. Okay, I feel like the game's being held back because it discourages player freedom, and that sums up the majority of gaming in general in this generation. They can't get the fuck out of the way. They can't get the fuck out of the way to let the player express themselves. I don't even know the reason for this game because it's single player. For fighting games, it's because they want to cater to people who've never played them before. But I don't even fucking know. Oh, I know exactly what it is. Shit like this happens whenever shit like this started happening when people started referring to games as art. And here's the thing. Video games are not art. They're not. It's craft with artistic elements.
Wait, so if video games have artistic qualities or elements to it, doesn't that kind of make it art in a way?
No, it's craft with artistic elements. Because just because something has the ability to be used as something else doesn't mean that that's what it is. Like I can use the heel of my boot as a hammer. Does that make it a hammer? No, I'm using it as a hammer. It's a fucking boot.
So
like
when,
Pong was a video game. It had no storytelling in it. There was no art to it. It was a fucking way to pass time.
I love when
And
someone
engage the
fucking.
brain.
I love when someone fucking calls my house at the absolute worst timing.
No, it's fine. I heard the phone. I just ignored it. So let's see what this article says about fast travel, because I'm gonna wrap this up here in a second. We've already spent way too long on it. That's kind of why I was ranting.
Yeah,
I was just trying
it's
to
your
get it all
passion,
out.
man. It's your passion, man. It tends to happen.
So this article says fast travel or lack thereof. In Dragon's Dogma 2, the world is quite vast and the fast travel system is not up for the task. I mean, it's not. The first game had very limited fast travel also until the arrival of the Eternal Fairy Stone and Dark Arisen expansion, but the map was smaller, exactly. Perhaps there was also a novelty to that game that made trekking back and forth less tedious. It feels incredibly tedious in Dragon's Dogma 2. No, it was still just as tedious. The map was just smaller. And again, we gave the game a pass for being the first entry. There's no fucking excuse now. By the second game, this is clearly an intended design choice. A fucking stupid one.
Yeah, terribly.
There are aspects of the game that make that tedium worse. The size of the map, as I've noted, is one of these. The map is roughly 4 times the size, I gave it 2.5, of the first game. It's also just a busier world. There are more NPCs stopping you and pawns walking around hailing you and tons of side quests, which I hate to say are often not that interesting, which, I mean, RPGs are laden with side quests that you don't need to do, so that's not really a problem to me. The problem is that why the fuck is there so much walking? Like, why is over, like, I'd say 45% of my experience gonna be walking? Why? Oh, the reason for this lack of fast travel is apparently to encourage exploration. We already been over that. I'm just too bored or exhausted from going to point A to point B to even do it again. Like, literally, there have been times where I wanted to play more of the game, but it's like, damn, I'm gonna have to do all that walking. So I just turned the shit off. So yeah, this article pretty much highlights the same shit I do, but I mean, I don't even think we have to read the rest of this. Like, let me give a verdict on what I think about Dragon's Dogma real quick. So I like the game, but it's being held back by stupid fucking design decisions. That's really it, honestly. Give us a fast travel system. Give us multiple fucking save files with character slots. And the fact that people are defending the creator's choice to not give us a fast travel system or multiple character slots just shows you how fucking smooth brained people are and how contrarian people are. Like there's a reason shit works. Like you being counterculture or going against the grain all the time doesn't make any fucking sense. You have to admit sometimes that some shit is popular for a very good fucking reason.
Right. There are two things.
I was wondering.
There are two things. Like, for instance, you know, that something is mainstream. Either it's mainstream because it works, or it's mainstream because it's held on a pedestal and is not scrutinized.
There's no in between.
It's either mainstream for a good reason or it's not. One of the two. And a lot, you know what I'm saying? That's it. That's all there is to it. Figure out which one is which. But you can't be a contrarian cunt ass and do that. It's not conducive. It's not scrutiny. It's just bitching and moaning, really.
You know what's interesting to me about that is something about this makes me think that the director or the developer is like has this mindset of like wanting to keep it like the old kind of. Like that may not be accurate. It almost sounds like a boomer moment, if you ask me.
No, I don't think it's because he wants to keep it exactly like the first game. I honestly think now, we have to concede that the things we thought were problems in the first game were legitimate design choices. Like, here's the thing, right? If you want me to explore, if you don't want fast travel in the game, fine, whatever. Why the fuck can't I have a mount, or at the very least infinite stamina outside of combat? Because the map's too fucking big to be walking around on foot with a limited stamina bar. It makes no fucking sense.
Okay, limited stamina bars to me, that itself doesn't make much sense.
Now you're a noob or a casual if you want fast travel in multiple character slots. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
At that moment, I just want to say, get fucking bent.
Imagine Elden Ring with no fast travel.
Oh God. Fuck no!
No mount, no fast travel. Just walk everywhere in Elden Ring.
No.
Oh no!
Fuck off with that. No.
I put
already have a hard enough time
477
playing
hours
Elden
in that
Ring
game.
on it.
I would never have been able to do it without fast travel and mounts. Go ahead, Soups, my bad.
I already have a hard enough time playing Elden Ring as it is already. Jesus, man, those boss fights, they're not kidding around, man.
Yeah, difficulty, and we take away fast travel and mounts. Get the fuck out of here. They had the nerve to say that game was better than Elden Ring. Fuck, I want to talk more about it, but we gotta move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have final thoughts before we get into.
You can save it for your.
I've said
Continue
what
that
I
like
wanted
you're
to
doing
say.
your next dad.
I've said what I wanted to say. Isn't really much, but you get the point.
I monopolized that because I had to say it, bro. What were you saying, Soups?
Oh, I was just gonna say, you could talk about it next time on your next Dread Quest video or something.
Yeah,
Anyway,
probably. I might dedicate a
next
video
topic.
to it. Yeah, next topic. So something I came across. I actually found this week. For some odd fucking reason, instead of remaking the classics, we're remaking the remakes of classics. This has to be the very first remake of a remake.
Which is absolutely,
What?
it's cancer. That's a cancer. I don't care who you are. That's cancerous.
I feel like that's been done before, right? A remake of a remake. Like
No,
that. I feel like someone has done that before, but I can't think of who.
I don't think it's been done like this. To be fair, calling Resident Evil 1 remake a remake is very generous. It's more of a remaster than anything. Like Demon Souls remake, that shit is not a remake. It's a remaster. The only thing they changed was the graphics.
They didn't even really change much. Well, I think like the first Resident Evil 1 remake did was that like it kind of upped the graphics a bit and then
it added
got better
freeform
voice
controls.
actors.
It added freeform controls, so moving
Yeah.
is better.
Moving
You
was
don't have to use
easier.
tank controls, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So apparently Gamerant is doing an argument for a
For
remake
and
for Resident
against.
Evil 1. No, but this is the part that really matters. There's tons of arguments against it, but I'm interested in what their argument is for why this should happen or why it's justifiable. Like, the idea that you would remake a remake makes no sense to me, dude. I don't get it. So, the argument for and against another Resident Evil 1 remake. There are some pros and cons for Capcom to consider if it wishes to reimagine the halls of Resident Evil 1's Spencer Mansion like its recent remakes. Speaking of Capcom, Soups, did you want to... when did you want to cover the voice acting thing? Next time?
We could cover that next time if we're pressed for time. So no, I'm in no rush.
Okay. I do want to cover that, though. Sounded interesting.
Yeah.
I already read this. There are some pros and
Go.
cons for Capcom to consider if it wishes to reimagine the halls of Resident Evil 1's Spencer Mansion like its recent remakes. Oh, I just read that. I did.
Yeah.
Resident Evil fans were excited yet understandably skeptical when they heard about the Resident Evil 2 remake. At the end of the day, though, the game was a massive success, proving that a new form of Resident Evil akin to modern first-person horror to coexist with a more traditional kind of survival horror. I'm still Resident Evil becoming first person. Resident Evil lost its identity after 6. Well, honestly, it could be argued that it lost its identity
I would
after
say
4.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's true. 4. Yeah, that is kind of true after 4, but at least it was still fun to play.
Yeah, 4 did preserve a lot more of Resident Evil's atmosphere than the entries to come after it.
Though I do like Resident Evil 2's atmosphere, though it was very dark. One,
Yeah,
because you
but
can't see half the shit. You can't see half the location at the time, but also because it actually makes the zombies more of a threat, the regular ones.
People had issue with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 remake though, because for Resident Evil 2 it didn't feel at all like the classic Resident Evil 2 because there was no fixed camera angles or anything like that. Mr. House, not Mr. House. It's
Mr.
not
House.
It's not Mr. House. I'm being a dumbass right now. Mr. X.
Yeah, Mr. X.
Mr. Professor X.
Yes, but this was Mr. X.
His appearances are like scripted now. I believe that was the argument, and like he felt less like a randomly occurring threat. They made that same complaint with Nemesis. Like Nemesis could pop up at any fucking time in the original RE3.
3.
Yeah, RE3.
Yeah, it was 3.
But now
go
ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, hold up. For Mr. X, okay, after his initial appearance, no, I would say his appearance isn't scripted. It's only like at his introduction and at the very end where you have in his boss fight where I would say his appearance is scripted. But other than that, no, he could have popped up whenever the fuck else. Like after you run from him, you pretty much lose him for a while, and then he could just pop up any moment again. As for Nemesis. RE3 remake, yeah, it's scripted. It's absolutely scripted.
Yeah, and he doesn't feel as big of a threat as he was in the original RE3. So like I get people's complaints when it comes to that. RE4, they took way too much from RE2 remake, and they gutted the entire system of RE4. RE4 original was very balanced, and there was a reason why you were rewarded for shooting enemies in the face with melee. Because shooting enemies in the head was actually kind of hard. You had to stand still and shoot them. And, like, it wasn't an instant kill either. So, I mean, they just kind of messed up the fucking experience for RE4 with the remake.
Well, I would say shooting zombies in the head, at least in RE2, you could shoot them in the head and they still wouldn't go down. So, I thought RE4 had the same thing going for it in that regard.
No, RE4 was the part where, Resident Evil was shifting more from horror to action, which I honestly think is
for the remakes.
For the remakes? No. I mean, you can be rewarded with a melee in RE4 remake, but it's not as frequent. Like in RE4 original, headshots rewarded with melee was guaranteed. They would always flinch. But in RE4, it's completely unbalanced. There's no cover system, and you don't even get invincibility frames during melee, I don't think, if I'm not mistaken. It was just thrown off balance.
That I cannot confirm or deny.
Yeah. But where was I? Oh, yeah. A new form of Resident Evil akin to modern first-person horror could coexist with a more traditional kind of survival horror. Now that Capcom has remade the second, third,
person, no?
Say what? I mean, yeah, it's they're talking about RE7 and 8. When they say first person, they're talking about RE7 and 8 Village. Yeah, those aren't traditional. Okay. These are the modern ones they're talking about. Yeah. And they say now that Capcom has remade the second, third, and fourth entry to critical and commercial success, many fans wonder what's next, with the two obvious contenders being a Resident Evil 5 or Code Veronica remake. There is a third option to consider, however. The most iconic version of the first game is the 2002 Resident Evil 1 remake, an easily accessible remake of the original game, first available on the GameCube. This remake didn't sell particularly well at the time, likely due to waning interest in the genre and series in general. Was the GameCube dying toward 2002?
No, actually, no. It was actually doing pretty good in 2002.
It didn't really sell well,
really?
though, did it?
Yeah, actually, it did pretty well. The other thing as well, though, was some of the games were very experimental, like really experimental, and that pretty much impacted it in certain ways. And there was also, when did
the GameCube start dying?
I think in the late 2000s, like the mid to late 2000s, before, right before the GameCube. Sorry, right before the Wii. I meant to say.
Yeah. I think the last game to be put out on GameCube was Zelda Twilight Princess, if I'm not mistaken.
I think there was a couple more after that, but it was
your last GameCube game. That in NFL 2008.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. 2008. And
it was 08, but it was technically released on 2007.
Right.
It says, not only are its gorgeous pre-rendered backgrounds timeless, but Resident Evil 1 Remake's updated English voice acting is also superb. The remake also features new areas, enemies, rearranged items, and different puzzles. It maintains the atmosphere of the original while offering something new for returning players, a practice Capcom would maintain for future Resident Evil remakes. I mean, I don't think that's completely true, given the criticism I just gave that people had issues with. They had more issues with RE2 and RE3 remake than they had with Resident Evil 1 remake. RE1 remake preserved more of Resident Evil's essence than the others, but let's see what they say about the rhetoric involved for why you should make a remake of a remake. Like this shit still baffles me. Why? Like a new Resident Evil 1 remake would bring up a lot of questions. No shit. For new players who jumped on board with the Resident Evil 2 remake and onward, a major piece of the story is missing, and there are understandably many who find the classic style of the Resident Evil 1 remake just too uninviting. It was one of the last entries to use fixed camera angles and tank controls with few options to adjust. This alone might dissuade players, but the original and 2002 remake also featured a few somewhat vague or obtuse puzzles. Resident Evil 1 Remake is also among the harder entries in the franchise, alongside fellow classic style entries like Resident Evil 0 and Code Veronica, which will likely be magnified by the aged controls for those lacking experience. I mean, here's the thing though, like in RE1 Remake, they featured a new style of controls. It was like modern controls in which like you didn't have to use the tank controls. It was just like wherever you moved the stick, the character moved, kind of like an RC car, and it wasn't really tank controls.
I mean, I know I struggled to pass Resident Evil. Actually, no, I still haven't passed Resident Evil 0. Shit.
RE0 had those same kind of controls. I didn't use tank controls on either one.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to. Tank controls suck. They just do.
Yeah.
That was my biggest problem with it. Tank controls. It just sucked. But people complaining about like the puzzles being hard and you having to read files to find solutions. These games were made so that you had to pay attention. I don't have a problem with that shit. Like the game also rewards you for prior knowledge. So
yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, I don't see how that's an issue. If anything, that makes the exploration kind of fun. You get to find like either notes for puzzles or just like notes from like people who like on their last legs of surviving. You know, like. To me, that just adds to the horror bits, knowing that there was other people there before you who didn't make it.
Yeah, I can see why that would be uninviting for people too, though. But at the same time, like, that's what Resident Evil was known for back in the day. You know, like modern gaming has softened people a lot. Like being expected to read files is too much for them. So I mean, whatever, you know. What else does it say?
Yeah, you already read the part about Resident Evil 0, the voice acting, and you already read that part.
This whole thing?
I think.
I don't think. I think I stopped at Code Veronica. Oh yeah, I stopped
Because
here.
I was talking about Resident Evil 0.
Yeah, so the continuation is while the dialogue has been updated from the original's fun, campy voice acting, it is still quite stifled and cheesy, or stilted and cheesy. The current string of remakes have been careful to develop a more serious and gritty atmosphere, which could also make for a jarring transition from the first game's HD remake. Even still, modern horror games emulate classic Resident Evil, a testament to its longevity. They really don't, though. Like, the second you went from... No, like, they're trying to say that Resident Evil 7 and 8 and Village are, like, they emulate the classic Resident Evil. No, the fuck they don't. They take far more from more modern horror games than they do anything.
I was gonna say, I mean, they're scary, but nah, they're not like the original.
They're not Resident Evil.
Not that I mind, but nah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of mind because Resident Evil had a certain appeal to it and it's lost its identity, like I was saying before. Also, the cheesiest thing I remember from Resident Evil 1 was the Jill sandwich comment. And
the Jill sandwich joke here.
That wasn't even meant to be cheesy. I mean, it kind of was, but it wasn't really meant to be a gag. You know, whatever.
Honestly, that's kind of because of the way it came off. I thought it was supposed to be a gag, and
yeah, that was part of the charm, though.
It was so bad, it was good.
Yeah. It says the Resident Evil 1 remake stands the test of time. All that being said, the Resident Evil 1 remake is still an incredibly solid game.
Oh, I think that one's arguing like it does. I think that's the part where it argues that it doesn't have to be remade again.
Where does it get into the fucking reason it should exist?
Where it should?
Oh, well, this is the argument against it. It would bring up a lot of questions. I mean, yeah, that's the argument against it. Why do you have to remake a remake? Exactly. This is the argument for it. Wait a minute. What the fuck?
Oh.
Did they even address...
I thought...
No, they didn't address... Did they even fucking address why it should be made? Would bring up a lot of questions.
Stands the test of time.
Actually, I think this was attempting to kind of argue for why it should be made because, the old ones are uninviting. But, I mean, that was kind of lost in translation. I don't really... They did a kind of...
Well, I guess we covered it.
They did kind of a poor job justifying why it should exist. I guess we'll wrap it up with this. The Resident Evil 1 remake stands the test of time. All that being said, the Resident Evil 1 remake is still an incredibly solid game. Its age takes nothing away from the haunting atmosphere and exhilarating resource management, while it doesn't take long to become comfortable with the tank controls. Nailing a shotgun headshot in a tight corridor as the camera eerily peers through a distant window makes the game a uniquely intense experience. The remake asks players to respect the franchise's history while also taking a step forward toward modernization, For new players that have fallen in love with Resident Evil, the first remake might appear intimidating at first, but the Spencer Mansion is packed with enough puzzles and secrets to remain enticing. It's about as far as a remake of the classic formula can go before becoming something else entirely, like the more modern entries of RE. The game also sits confidently among its sequels as some of the scariest PlayStation 1 games ever. Yeah, pretty accurate. The numerous Unreal Engine 5 fan remake trailers on YouTube can often feel unnecessary, but there's something fun about seeing a fully...
There's fan remake trailers?
I haven't seen any. There's fan-made trailers of RE1, apparently. It says there's something fun about seeing a fully 3D Spencer Mansion made in UE5. Perhaps Capcom will bring the manner to the RE engine in the near future unless fans get their long-awaited Code Veronica remake first. Capcom has practically written the guidebook for proper remakes, so whatever is next for Resident Evil will be something to look forward to. But at the end of the day, fans are always going to ask if this title actually needs one. Capcom is probably thinking the same thing. To be honest with you, that last part's fucking debatable. Writing the guidebook for proper remakes, debatable.
Honestly, this just makes me question Why don't they just make the old games more accessible to the new consoles? Like,
That's a good question. I mean, people ask the same thing about Santa Monica not releasing like a fucking compilation of all the old God of War games. No one knows. I guess they just hate money. It's like, why doesn't Capcom bring back Darkstalkers? They hate money, I guess. I don't know.
so like I don't. It's like even when I go in the PlayStation store looking for God of War, the oldest I can find is Part 3. Can't even find Part 1 or 2.
Because it's locked behind a streaming service.
No, I'm saying like even on the PlayStation store, the digital.
Yeah, so the only way to play God of War 1 and 2 on PS5 is to have PS Now. It's the only way.
Ah, fuck off.
No, it's trash. It's trash. It should absolutely be available for download in my library, but you have to stream it. Stupid.
Wow.
I don't know why people still have hope for it. Don't get me wrong. They just released Dragon's Dogma 2, but like I still can't fully trust Capcom. I just can't.
Oh, I just remembered. Remember how I asked about the remake of a remake?
Which one?
Well,
oh yeah, you asked if it
I
had been
think
done before. Yeah, who did it?
yeah, I was gonna say I just remembered. You all remember Silent Hill 2 like that had like the HD collection shit, and then now they're gonna like do a whole ass actual remake of Silent Hill 2.
That might be a little bit different because one of them is just a port, like a remaster. Like people, that's the thing. Corporations and consumers alike conflate the definitions of remake and remaster. A remaster is just updated resolution and like a certain quality of life fixes that might improve the original experience. But overall, it's just more of the same. A remake is a notion, like a remake is as the name fucking implies. It's actually a remake, or at least that's how you should define it.
It's funny enough because like I guess you would call it the remaster or whatever the HD collection of the Silent Hill games are.
Mm-hmm.
At least for part 2, it did. While it does kind of up the resolution, it did replace like the voice acting cast of the original game, which is it's so jarring when you're comparing the two. It's like, wait, what the fuck? Just like, wait a minute, why?
Especially if the voice actors were good, you're gonna notice. You're gonna fucking notice. It's like RoboCop 3. They noticed when the original actor was gone.
Oh yeah,
Peter Weller, right? That's his name.
Peter Weller. That's RoboCop himself.
Yeah, Wes is here. Toast.
Wait, when did they
here?
When did they change? When did they change the? Are you talking about like in the third movie, or are you talking about like in the video games, or?
No, the third movie, Peter Weller wasn't available for whatever reason.
Wait, he wasn't
Wes
available?
is here, right? I'm pretty sure he's here.
I've been here this whole time.
He's on the stream with us.
Yeah,
he's been with us.
Toast was.
He's been quiet, but he's been here.
Yeah, he's been here. He's been talking, or at least he did our last topic. Yeah, he's been very quiet. That's fine.
I was reading.
You have
I was
anything
letting
to
you
say?
guys. No, not in this particular topic. At the moment, I'm reading about possible solutions for thorium as a source of power. You know, the two main issues with it. I'll get into that later. But yeah, there's two main issues with it. One's political, the other's technical. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna cover IGN's opinion of Resident Evil 5, and yeah, their reasoning for why it can't be remade. Like, what the fuck? This controversy happened back in the game's heyday too. Like, it's really stupid rhetoric.
It did?
Yeah, it did. It was very stupid. Then. It was a lot easier to ignore back then because people just played good games and didn't fucking pay attention to idiots. But now we're in a different time. So it says the Resident Evil game that can't be remade. It's time to rewrite, not remake. Okay. So the population of Africa should be mostly black until it's inconvenient. Yeah, we're not gonna fucking watch this video.
I was gonna say, I thought I thought you were gonna say they should be only killing white zombies in Africa because it's
That's what
racist to kill a black
exactly.
zombie.
Did you want to watch it? The article looks pretty short. You guys want to watch it?
I can. I'd rather just look through the text first and then the video.
I'd rather make myself a soda can fleshlight, to be honest.
Wow.
I mean,
With Resident Evil 4 is released last year. This was from this was updated March 20th of this year, but it was posted originally March 13th. What do they mean last year? What the fuck?
are they talking about the remake?
Resident Evil 4 was released in 2023. I'm tripping.
Yeah, they talk about the remake.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 is. I thought it was released much earlier, but with Resident Evil 4's release last year, Capcom's project to make the glory years of its survival horror series complete. Excuse me. But as the game's post-credits scene suggests, the remakes aren't over, and so the big question is, where next? The obvious answer is a remake of Resident Evil 5, but on the game's 15th anniversary. It's clear that moving forward chronologically will take Capcom's remakes into the series' weakest era. An era of gameplay and narrative decisions best left in the past. I mean, none of the fucking opinions they're about to have are gonna be ones that matter.
Yeah.
Because, like, there were actual arguments against Resident Evil 5 that made sense. Like, the game delving too far into the action side of Resident Evil, which I kind of understand. Resident Evil 5 wasn't really scary, but it was very, very fun. So it wasn't all bad. I had a lot of fun with it. But, again, they move on to say...
If your NP...
Go ahead.
If your NPC partner wasn't fucking up on you, though.
Oh, no. Yeah, your NPC partner was a vegetable. Like, what the fuck?
I wish they just made it like a 2-player game. Where you...
No, it was. But you if you wanted to play single player, you had to play with a computer. Yeah, it was a co-op. It was co-op. You had split screen.
I don't remember getting that option when I had it on PS3.
It was split screen and online. It was definitely co-op. I played a lot of it.
All right, go on.
They say Resident Evil 5 simply can't be remade, at least not to the standards of Capcom's best work. Define best work.
I mean, I was gonna say, it can be remade. It would probably end up like Resident Evil 4, right, or 3.
It
won't match up to Resident Evil 2's remake.
You have to understand or keep in mind the lens they're viewing this from. Yeah.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah, it says, and so the answer is not to remake, but to rewrite. Resident Evil is a survival horror series. Not that you'd know that playing Resident Evil 5. Sure, it features a constant flow of horrific imagery, but RE5 is an action game through and through. That's evident in its cover shooter mechanics, vehicle chases with on-rails turret sequences, and the constant rattle of assault rifles. Even its visual design evokes the sandy shades of modern military games that experienced mass popularities in the late 2000s. It all speaks to a series that had lost its way. Not really. That's the part of the RE argument I don't understand from people. Like, I get that it's a horror series, but like they're using the same characters who have survived entire zombie apocalypses. Their development into Black Ops specialists or BOW researchers makes complete and total sense. We can't expect these characters to be scared and ignorant forever. That said, we could have had plenty of action, but they should have leaned more into horror. So, I mean, yeah, I kind of agree. It could have been a lot scarier. But the action wasn't the problem. It wasn't. There's plenty of horror games that are scary and have plenty of fucking action. I don't know. It says, rather than reflect on the tenets that were the foundation of its existence, Resident Evil 5 looked to the contemporary gaming zeitgeist in an attempt to find a new lease of life. The result is an unholy hybrid of Resident Evil, Gears of War, and Call of Duty. It's as ugly and unwieldy as it sounds. Yeah, that's overblown. The game's pretty fun.
I was gonna say that's a bit unfair.
I don't know where they get Gears of War from, honestly.
Is it just are they just saying Gears of War
Don't
because
me.
you point and shoot at a load of enemies or what?
I guess like Resident Evil has always been stationary shooting was always a thing in Resident Evil. I'm pretty sure you can move and shoot in Gears of War. I don't know what they're talking about. And the cover system in RE5 is limited. It doesn't even appear all the time, but whatever. This design appears to be not just a misguided attempt to follow Western successes, but also a misreading of its predecessor, with Resident Evil 4 director Shinji Mikami deftly reinvented the series through the use of a new over-the-shoulder camera angle. The perspective allowed for a more kinetic, action-heavy game. Despite this, Mikami never lost sight of the terror at the core of Resident Evil. I mean, plenty of people would disagree with that. I think RE4 struck a good balance, but I still think they could have had more horror, and they should have had more horror through use of enemies.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was definitely the turning point of the series.
Yeah, because it was.
What I'm wondering is like, what did does this person actually want Resident Evil 5 to be like a scary game? Because at that point, you might just be asking for Resident Evil 5 to basically turn into Resident Evil 7.
I mean,
it's just a complete workover, new protagonist, and just new all that.
I mean, I don't even know why I don't even know why they get into the mechanics and design philosophy, because obviously the argument isn't going to involve any of that. It's going to involve something else. So like the writing has nothing to do with any of this. So like, what the fuck is he talking about? Maybe the horror elements, but that's about it. Right. So they praise Mikami and say, through use of enemies that were strategically placed to provide undulating waves of tension and fear, and the inclusion of Ashley as a vulnerable charge, combat encounters were focused on surviving overwhelming horrors rather than dominating foes. I mean, if you think the inclusion of Ashley as a babysitting mechanic is good, then you need your fucking head checked. I mean, they knew she would be annoying, so they gave you a fucking dumpster to put her in. Like, what are you talking about?
Right, basically.
Who the fuck? Who didn't use the dumpster? And they gave you a suit of armor that made her invulnerable as your reward for beating the hardest difficulty. Nah, Ashley didn't make the fucking experience scarier. It made it more annoying. What? You can't even climb down a ladder by herself. She's fucking useless.
By design.
My God.
I don't know why that's just so funny.
Also, you can suplex enemies in this game, so I don't know what you mean by the game's not about dominating foes. Like, I can German suplex somebody on their neck, bro. Or is it a belly to belly suplex? I can't remember. It's a belly to belly suplex.
Yeah, I think it was belly. You know, okay, here's the thing. Here's one critical thing I want though. If they do remake Resident Evil 5, do I get to punch a rock boulder down?
Yeah, that was
down
the most iconic
down
thing.
The line.
I want to fist fight a boulder.
Do I get to punch? Do I get? Is Chris gonna be play the punch boulder Redfield? Is he gonna be as he's gonna be as overjacked as he was in the original? Because that's gonna be fucking hilarious.
No, he's not. They showed you Chris Redfield in RE7, and he looked nothing like Chris Redfield. Nothing.
But he does show up in Resident Evil 8 though, right? And he does look bigger than
I think they give you a DLC when you play as him in RE7 too. That is not Chris Redfield, bro. It's not.
Okay, no. Resident Evil 7, Chris Redfield. No. I'm not talking about that one. That one's an imposter.
He's a clone.
I'm talking about Resident Evil 8.
Yeah,
Wesker did another.
I didn't look up anything.
Yeah, Wesker messed around with a clone. I think he does, because I remember in the trailer he does show up and he looks like kind of like
Resident
big
Evil
as he does in Resident Evil 6.
He looks bigger in Village, actually.
Yeah, he looks like.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he Resident Evil 6. He kind of looks like more gruffier.
Yeah, so they brought him. They brought him back to his somewhat original form by the time Village was available. So yeah, I think they're gonna go with that design if they remake this, which I don't even know. I don't think I'll buy the remake of 5 if this article's going the way I think.
Would.
Go ahead.
I mean, it would have to make sense for him to be big, because Chris would be a big guy at this point, man.
I don't know why
I can't picture him skinny anymore.
They should have just kept the original design from 5. I don't know why they felt the need to change it. Don't know.
I guess they saw too many people roasting them about Chris being on steroids or some shit.
Fuck them. Like,
because of how going from part 1 to part 5.
I mean, he trained. He built that muscle mass to be able to fight Wesker. He got his ass beat. What do they want?
I don't know, man, but I just found that hilarious.
It's pretty funny. They say Resident Evil 5, meanwhile, presents its enemies as waves to be gunned down with increasingly powerful weaponry. Their purpose is cannon fodder, a wall of meat to slow your progress through levels, and those levels are not locations to be explored. Instead, they are largely funnels that push you from entrance to exit. Resident Evil 4 may have replaced the series' traditional continuous structure with discrete levels in an attempt to move away from the backtracking-heavy design of previous games, but it preserved the spirit of locations like the Raccoon City police station, the village, Salazar's castle, and the island feature interlocking explorable pathways that solidify these locations as authentic spaces rather than obstacle courses. Resident Evil 5 has no interest in this, with the majority of its stages being little more than corridors peppered with dead ends to hide treasures in. So what you're saying is it does encourage exploration. Whatever. Their lack of authenticity means no one will ever mention the Kijuju autonomous zone in the same breath as the Spencer Mansion. I mean, this just sounds ignorant toward the last part, because Resident Evil 5 wasn't based on any old area. It was completely new. It was in a different fucking country. So like, what do they mean by it's inauthentic? I don't know what they mean. It just sounds like some gobbledygook to me. But
anyways, guys, I found a couple potential solutions, and anyway.
Cool. Anyways,
so in the subject I was looking into, I was reading through. Apparently, there are a couple of solutions I know of now. For sure.
What are you talking about?
He's talking about that technical solution to that he mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's technical because there are a couple of solutions to the lack of thorium power, and the mainstream approach of the molten salt reactors. The problem is those molten salts, they're molten. Guess what? We don't have that damn much to fucking block that corrosion at all. That's why they've been financially abysmal failures. Yes, there's the fucking politicking and the glow-opping against nuclear by, politicians, central bankers, and oil barons. Is all colluded together. I mean, the globe's under a bunch of petrocurrency trade acts. No shit. Been the case since 73 at least, as far as we know. And but the other reason is this technical problem of using thorium in molten salt reactors. They're an absolute cunt because of the super molten salts are very corrosive and really toxic. So apparently, can-do reactors are a potential solution. They're being investigated.
We are not talking about that right now, bro. I'm
sorry.
No,
I know. I know we're not. I'm just saying that's what I'm looking at right now. Give you a sample.
I got you.
That's all.
Cool. Also, Kaine, I feel like you could skip the next couple of paragraphs. It's not really talking about much. I just skimmed over it myself.
Yeah.
The only thing that's worth noting is that very last sentence.
The only thing is this couple paragraphs. A lot of it, like Soup said, it was waffling basically.
What was the?
Yeah, it's just wasting time.
What was the last one?
Until it actually gets to the main point of what it wants to say.
Oh my god, yeah. So I can skip. So this is the part I really wanted to get into anyway. So it's like set in a fictional West African country. Resident Evil 5's primary antagonists are black people. This is the part I wanted to get to. Like, a faithful remake of Resident Evil 5 would break Capcom's 7-year streak of brilliant survival horror. So yeah, Wait a minute. This does get into the racism in the first part. Like right here, it says this.
Not
part-
really. It's like it's like the second paragraph of the last sentence where it actually mentions the word. 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
like,
a whole
oh,
new
and
environmental
no, it's just
structure.
waffling through.
Yeah, a whole new environmental structure and scenario design that reigns in the action and dials up the horror would bring it in line with Capcom's other remakes. But all of this doesn't account for Resident Evil 5's most notorious problem: racism.
Racism.
Fuck.
Dun, dun, dun.
Set in a fictional West African country, Resident Evil 5's primary antagonists are black people. Yes, technically it's the Ouroboros virus that protagonist Chris Redfield is fighting, but the parasite's host is depicted as a nation of mobs and primitives who are violent even before their infection. That's not fucking true at all, but okay.
What?
Intentionally
Wait a
not.
minute.
Go ahead.
Hold up, I just want to hear that part again. The parasite's host is depicted as a nation of mobs and primitives.
Yeah, so
What is
I'll
this person
reread
saying?
it. I'll reread it. Set in a fictional West African country, Resident Evil 5's primary antagonists are black people. Yes, technically it's the Ouroboros virus that protagonist Chris Redfield is fighting, but the parasite's host is depicted as a nation of mobs and primitives who are violent even before their infection. That's not even true.
Oh my god.
It's not true. They're all infected. The very first group of people you meet are infected. They're just pretending not to be. There's an entire scene that covers it. Like, what are you talking about? Intentionally or not, Resident Evil 5 positions Africa as the dark continent, an uncivilized world harboring a diseased population that needs gunning down via Western intervention in the name of a global security. So in Resident Evil 4, right,
What
we went to
the
Spain.
heck?
Nah, I know. Hang on. We go to Spain, right, in Resident Evil 4, and we deal with a cult, like a no shit cult, and all the people there are Spanish because we're in fucking Spain. And the general population is going to be Spanish, which is white adjacent, according to some people. But that's okay. But if we go to Africa, where logically, statistically, and geographically speaking, the majority of the population would be black, that's a problem. So like I said, we want the majority of characters. We want the majority of characters to be black until it's inconvenient. Then they can't be black. They have to be something.
Or are they asking to whitewash all the zombies so that way we wouldn't be playing a white dude shooting a technically black person?
Exactly. Technically, Sheva's African, but she has a British accent.
And it both looks horrible.
It's kind of stupid, honestly. I don't understand their point here. This insensitive treatment of people of color was hotly debated even as early as Resident Evil 5's debut trailer, with writers such as I can't pronounce this guy here and Stephen Totio pointing out the game's uncomfortable post-colonial imagery. The arguments and think pieces post-colonial?
What post-colonial imagery? What are they talking about?
I mean, there were white nations that occupied Africa, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm foggy on that history, to be completely honest with you.
Even at that time, like at that point in the game.
I mean, either way,
I thought it was like way earlier.
I don't think it. When we think of colonization, we think of things similar to what happened with America, and I really don't think it's to the same degree in Africa. But again, I don't know, so I can't really verify this comment of post-colonial imagery. I really can't. But here they say the arguments and think pieces continued well into the game's release window, with IGN's own former editor-in-chief, Hillary Goldstein, having also wrestled with the subject. But that was 2009, a time when race was apparently a debate rather than a reality. Shut the fuck up. Race,
oh my god.
Race was never a debate, you fucking idiot. It was about whether or not it actually mattered, or whether or not it's healthy for black people in particular to continue to purport themselves as eternal victims 400 years later when they have their freedom and never had to endure the hardships of slavery or civil rights. So whatever.
Now we're no, apparently that's these people really want to live back in that glory day where everyone was fighting for the equal rights of races and all that. They just
really
so
want to be
badly want
victimized.
our modern society to go back to that.
They do. Like it says in the 2020s,
Just so that they can feel good about themselves.
in the 2020s, in a post Black Lives Matter world, there is only one acceptable response to a white man shooting waves of Africans for an entire video game. No.
Oh yeah, let's be a fuck.
Yes.
Oh my god, the amount of shit. What was the worst genocide in history?
In my opinion, it'd be all of them. Like,
Well, all of them,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, yes, but when it comes to body count relative to temporal measure, well, guess what's one of the worst?
I mean, it wasn't Nazi Germany. Like,
It wasn't even.
There were higher body counts in other countries.
Let me give you. There was when I was in the year I turned 2 years old, 1994. There was a genocide in Africa. There was a shipment of machetes that got broken into, and some Africans got a hold of the machetes, butchered around 800,000 other African and their enemies within 4 months.
Yeah.
How many people died?
It's like around
He said
800,000 within 4 months.
Well, within 4 months. I don't know how fast that is relative to other nations, because like
this is also with machetes. Machetes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good point.
That's really machetes, bruh.
Yeah, and that's bloodshed. That's not like famine or dying of starvation.
That's not like gunfire. That's not gunfire either. No, like I think there might have been a couple guns here and there, but it was damn near all machetes. Like, holy fuck.
I don't know. This rhetoric for why they think the game shouldn't be remade is fucking stupid. But let's get into their thought process before we actually debate them real quick. It says remakes may be able to redefine their source material, but there's only so many changes you can make until it's not a remake at all, but an entirely new game. No shit. And if you take Africa out of Resident Evil 5, is it Resident Evil 5 anymore? Even with a vastly improved, more sensitive take on this. Man, this is the shit I'm talking about. Sensitive. Take on the continent, perhaps one with a black protagonist and a more empathetic look at the outbreak. The experience would simply be too divorced from the original to hold the name Resident Evil 5. So here's the thing, right?
Oh, okay. So let's just blackwash Chris Redfield. Got it.
I mean, here's
boom,
the
problem
thing.
Solved.
Like the virus is a force of nature, essentially. I mean, yeah, it's created in a lab, but they're being sent there to stop the rest of Africa from being infected. Some other people have already fallen victim to the fucking virus. And can we remind them that the entire point of them going there is to try and either cure them or prevent them from being infected? Like, again, like there's an entire scene in the game where it's laid bare the severity of the situation. And it's when you find the first infected that actually fucking attacks you. And then after that, you get swarmed by an angry mob who is also infected. Like, this is very stupid. Like, it treats black people like fucking children. Like, black people, like, imagine an entire population of people becoming mindless monsters and killing them being racist. Like, it makes no fucking sense.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's absolute. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. What do you want me to say? It's bullshit. Like, it's actually fucking. It's racist patronizing of blacks.
Yeah, it's benevolent racism.
Yeah, you could say it's ironically racist. Like
it's not even ironic. It's just racist patronization out the fucking ass. And then fucking go. But it's not, because, putting them on a pedestal while patronizing and condescending the shit out of a group. Totally not fucking racially targeting. No, totally not. No, because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm a spurg with a bad foot and asthma from North Louisiana woods that fucking uses basic bitch reasoning and can see shit at surface level. but I don't know fuck according to these guys, right? Because my skin's too pale. No, let's not throw the fact in I'm one of the smallest ethnic minorities on the fucking planet, let alone, especially amongst the Caucasians, being a castizo. But no, I'm too pale for that card. Honk, honk. Yeah, so I guess I don't know what fucking racism is, apparently, according to these cunts. I hate CRT so much.
Yeah,
else
the
do you
next
say about
paragraph
this
mostly
shit?
just mostly just dunks on Resident Evil 6.
Oh my god. Yeah, it says, so where does Capcom go now? Personally, I look backwards. Code Veronica is an ideal candidate. It's I mean, none of this shit really matters anymore.
just-
Like the
just
crux of
don't
the
ever-
argument's been covered. Like,
Yeah, basically just say, oh no, Resident Evil 5 is racist. Let's just not touch that one.
yeah, it's fucking stupid. And the thing is, like, this article just kind of injects a whole bunch of fluff before they actually get into what they really think about the game, because I don't think they expect people to actually read it. That's probably why it's like buried beneath a bunch of bullshit that they don't really care about in order to get to how it's racist. It's
someone really
infuriating.
worked hard on those someone really worked hard on those word counts in college essays. Yeah.
Really fucking stupid, dude. Like, is there anything I haven't already said about why? Like, the fact that they think that the victims of this virus are looked at in an unempathetic way is stupid. Like, they even report back to HQ that the locals were hostile, right? Which is obviously a problem. And their orders don't even change.
Yeah.
They still have to march into the arms of death to complete their mission, essentially. Like, ridiculous. I mean, I wouldn't want a remake of RE5 because with the way the remakes went, I don't think it would be as closely tied to the spirit of the original game. But that's just standard fair complaints whenever we look at Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake. I just don't think they can do it. Capcom's track record of remakes isn't really that great in my opinion. Once you remove yourself from RE1 remake. But that's enough of that. I was just hoping that IGN would have actually covered their thoughts on the racist portrayals or whatever the fuck more. But
yeah, these people just don't really have much to say. I mean,
they really don't.
They never really do. It's like they have to do it or else they lose their job.
I mean, similar things that were going on at Kotaku. Like, they've essentially given them the option to quit. And they want them to have like 50 articles a week or some crazy shit like that. And they're never going to do it. Never going to fucking happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't even want it. I could barely stand to do one article a week if I was working that kind of job. Sheesh.
They would have to fire me. I would continue to show up for work, but I mean, I would consistently not meet the quota of 50 articles a week. You're going to fire me. I'm getting some severance pay.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to pay me for that time.
I'm just going to underperform until you have to fire me. I'm not quitting. I'm not stupid. But with
I typed out what I was going to talk about at the end of the video as part of my updates.
We'll check it when we get there.
Yeah, it's going to be during sign off.
Yeah.
Our next topic was going to involve Invincible because season 2 released its finale recently, and
yeah.
There hasn't really been very much in the way. There hasn't been very much in the way of movies going on, except for the release of Godzilla and Kong, which I haven't seen yet, so I wasn't able to talk about it.
Yeah, but that's. I just kind of wrote that off. I just kind of write that one off as just like another, just another kind of cash grab Godzilla King Kong crossover. Just,
but
it exists
good, though. Like, I do want to know if it's good because I do want to watch it. If it's good,
maybe you have fun with that. I had all the fun. I have all I could want with Godzilla -1.
That is true. That's true. It is important.
I really want that movie to come out on DVD soon.
It is important to just not, like, don't look for a reason to just go to the cinema. Like, you want to make sure, especially now in this day and age, that you are spending your money wisely when it comes to your entertainment and making sure it's worth every penny. Because with the quality being where it is, it's just paramount, bro. It's just paramount that you make sure that
absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy how we're just not getting. It went from we're getting a lot of bad stuff to we're hardly getting anything at all these days.
pretty much like it's been radio silent for the most part when it comes to theaters. Streaming shows hasn't really been much better. Go ahead.
Speaking of streaming shows, yeah, I was gonna say even Amazon's not putting out a lot of content these days. I mean, I used to be following 4 shows on Amazon, and now only one's updated. That being this one, Invincible.
Since I have Prime Video, I might watch that Fallout show just to have something to talk about. And Vox Mechanica.
I think it's just Machina.
What is it called? Vox Machina?
I think it's just Machina. Vox Machina. I don't think it's called Mechanica.
My fault though. I might continue watching it. Like I already gave like a brief synopsis off stream about my issues with it. Again, it's another case of there's a lot of stuff to like, but it never comes together because it's being held back by something else. That's really where media is right now. Anything that you get that you're either going to get something that's really bad and irredeemable, or you're going to have something that has a bunch of good ideas in it. But
it's just going to be held back.
Yeah, somebody on the writing team refuses to let it really take off. Like, it's really annoying. Speaking of which, I think that's the case for fucking Invincible, which is what we're going to end up covering here. So I brought up the Invincible wiki, and what I was thinking about doing is going through each episode for season 2, because, you know, they give synopses of each one. But before I get into that, what I really don't like about the show primarily is that it kind of removes itself from the context of the original comic. Like, the original comic was written as a parody of superhero comic books, and when you look at it through that lens, it actually works a lot better. But the show doesn't really lean into that. Mark Grayson is a completely different fucking character in this show than he is in the comics. He's actually kind of an asshole in the comics, which I think is refreshing. But they didn't lean that route for whatever fucking reason. So when we talk about season 2, I guess we can start with episode 1.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the reason why the show was even having initial success is because most people did not read the comics prior to the show.
Yeah,
I think that's why it even got the kind of attention or success that it had for this long.
I didn't read the comics either, though, but I actually know I have taste. Like, people were comparing this shit. People were comparing this shit to Batman the Animated Series, bro. I was like,
wait, I've never heard that.
Bro,
I've never heard that before.
They were putting it in the same on the same pedestal as Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man the Animated Series, the original X-Men the Animated Series, and no, not at all. Like, the art style was great. I mean, I like the art style, but there's just too much ideology in the show, bro. Characters are gender swapped, race swapped. There's a bunch of white mothers with brown kids. There's a bunch of interracial couples. There's man hate. There's fucking Mark's gay best friend who has nothing in common with him outside of them being on the same fucking sports team. He hates everything that Mark likes, yet they're still fucking friends somehow. Like, that's whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not to mention, along with not to mention one of those race swap characters was also on a college on a feminist degree. So
fucking Amber. Jesus Christ.
Amber Christ.
Yeah,
Horrible fucking character. So, like, for episode 1 of season 2, like, the thing in episode 1 for season 2, the most important thing is that they introduce multiverse theory, which I can't really blame the show too much on that, because the multiverse theory thing was actually in the original comic. The problem is, Honestly, I think the problem here is just poor timing. The comic series is way older than the show. It's just poor timing. Because we're all kind of over.
Yeah.
Poor
We're all
timing.
kind of over multiverse theory.
I mean, poor timing. Multiverse theory has been used to quote unquote justify bad cop outs and shit takes and all this other shit, making bad things canon that really should not be, and all these other cancer takes. And as a result, everybody's kind of, fuck this, fuck this.
Also, when I saw season 2 and it went the multiverse route, I was like, oh god damn it, not this one too. Like, everything has a multiverse next to it now. Christ.
No, but to be fair,
also,
though, the way, go ahead.
But also, I feel like this the way they're doing the multiverse thing just kind of handles itself the same way as like that's how Marvel or DC likes to do their multiverses, where like certain events are always the same in every single multiverse, which should not be that way, because if it's a different universe, you'd have like something would play out differently.
Right.
So they have the thing where Omni-Man and Mark are like evil bastards in like every single universe except the main one that we're in.
Yeah, like the fucking odds
I hate
of that are literally impossible, because there's a supposedly infinite universes. That's one. To be fair though, the changes that happen within each universe, honestly, I don't even know if I can give points to this. The changes are permanent for each universe, but I mean that kind of doesn't fucking matter when you realize there's an infinite amount of them. There's an infinite amount of them.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
But the thing is, the way you handle an infinite multiverse is you focus on a core set of universes and emphasize those until you run out of ideas, or a writer starts coming along and starts saying, well, why don't we do this? And you say, fuck that. Because you have to concede, no matter what, you say if you want time travel, backwards time travel and winding up in another universe, you're still going to have the same ontological paradoxes that you do in your current universe. They might have a slight alteration or a tweak or a loophole here and there. But you have to find that out. You have to figure that out, and they still apply to the other universe you wind up being in. But what you have to do is you have to focus on a set number of universes, on those solely, even if you have an infinite multiverse, until the law of diminishing returns start to kick in. That's when you ramp up and give happy endings to certain characters in those realities before moving on to another set. That's the only way you're going to do that. You can keep things fresh. You can keep new ideas coming. You can eliminate shit ideas with the right kind of vetting teams, which CRT, critical theory, groomer propagandists call themselves fucking comic writers, need to be vetted against.
The thing is, logistically speaking, it kind of does affect the drop-in, drop-out co-op nature of a comic book universe, because it seems like the only way to effectively backdoor your way out of multiverse theory is to not go through the fucking front in the first place, because there is no possibility that is off the table once you introduce it, and it makes vetting people nearly impossible, because you don't know because here's the thing, not every bad decision is political. That's the thing. We just have a lot less honest political. A lot less failure is honest nowadays. Like there's nothing that's bad on its own merits anymore. It's usually bad because ideology.
Yeah, that's the majority of the time.
Also, I just want to point out though, I think the only time, for one thing, it's funny though the way you were describing how a multiverse should be handled, Wes. Sonic Prime of all shows managed to do that a lot better than Invincible did.
Yes,
they actually focus on just like 5 universes of characters.
Yeah, that's not an infinite multiverse. It's like a small that's not an infinite multiverse though. It's just 5.
But once those are done and you want to explore new ideas or new iterations, you move on to another little cluster and do it that way in stages, and have a franchise built. If you're going to have a multiverse involved franchise, that would be the better way to do it. Yes, it's not impossible. It's just harder to do. But when you stagger them in this way, you treat them like, oh yeah, it's there, but not really. kind of way in stagnant stages, like, this bundle over here. Okay, law of diminishing returns starting to kick in. Okay, let's wrap these up. Let's move on to others, and so on and so forth. That's the only real way to do it.
It would have also been better if like the universe is like, if you're crossing to like a separate universe, like have it to where it's actually like a completely different world than the one you knew before. Like none of the people you know from the first universe are in the second one. It could have been, you could make a whole standalone story about the other universe on its own before you had someone cross into that one. That would have been nice, like a nice change of pace.
The thing is with the Guardian of the Omniverse, like the time travel experiment, like the fucking part 2 of the saga, where his second in command, he moves to another universe. He makes a miscalculation and accidentally and unintentionally winds up 15,000 years in the past before his counterpart in that universe would be born. So his whole journey is to record what happened directly, as well as keep things keep from altering the flow of that universe's time as much as possible, as well as establish himself. And then when the right era comes around, like the 18th to the 20th centuries, that's when him and that Savage family and the Cronus family can start messing with shit in certain ways and start combating the evils in that timeline in the way they wanted to. And
Wait, what are we talking about? My bad. I was
reading.
I'm
giving you the example of the time travel thing. That's an example. And it's a focus on that in a way that it's a bit more realistic, because I've been learning about the philosophy of time. So I've been editing those stories. These are examples of how you can do that. And still
I was trying to figure out. I was trying to highlight the main points of season 2 and what I disagreed with. So like I went into episode 2, and what was I trying to highlight about that? Oh yeah, I don't think this happened in episode 2, but another thing that did happen in this season is that obviously we reunite with Omni-Man and shit. Like I said, they take a lot of things from the comics, but like it's not done in exactly the same way. So like there's these changes with the Viltrumites that end up jumping the Unopin, whose name escapes me. I forgot his fucking name. Alan? Anyway,
oh yeah, Alan, that's his name.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different scenarios where like there's a scene. Okay, so there's a scene with Omni-Man being a leader of Viltrumites who are basically look identical. They kind of look like white men, kind of like what the Kryptonians look like a little bit, where it's like a very uniform race of people. But now Omni-Man, in the show, Omni-Man is like one of the soldiers. He's not a leader. There's a woman leading him, and it's a fucking diverse cast of black Viltrumites, female Viltrumites, and fucking disabled Viltrumites, where they have like eye patches and shit. And it's just like small changes like that just make it's just needless fucking changes like that ruin the experience, because it's like having a fucking laser beam shined in your fucking eye because you know why they're doing it. It's ridiculous. There's a female leader of the 3 Viltrumites who beat Alan up. Like it's just these needless fucking changes like that. Fucking what else? What else do they fucking do? I don't even know if they're gonna do Anissa's storyline. I don't think they're actually gonna like show what she does to Mark in the show, because she still hasn't yet.
I mean, aside from beating his ass,
yeah, like I don't know if they're gonna go through with her actual storyline, because they haven't done it yet, like at all.
That'd probably be a season 3 thing.
Mark's personality is completely different from how it is in the fucking comics. So because the show takes itself very seriously, but when you find out this, like I said, when you find out this was written as a parody, it doesn't really make sense. That's part of the reason why they don't even get into certain characters' backstories, like Bulletproof. Like he's a complete fucking parody. Like if you look up his backstory, you might actually laugh. Like it's actually it's needlessly fucking tragic. Like needlessly.
Damn.
Go ahead.
Also, I was gonna say, yeah. We also talk about Omni-Man having a wife with a bug race. The race of bugs.
I don't really have a problem with that, because Viltrumites Viltrumites kind of do that, you know, like, I mean, it's
But like
weird.
you never see that with, but we never see that amongst their ranks or like their races, like amongst their race.
Oh, you mean in the show?
Like you said, everyone is again in the show. Like they never show like other like alien types along with the Viltrumites.
No,
So
Viltrumites
that
do conquer planets. They do.
yeah, they
Like
conquer planets,
that's.
but like starting
Go ahead.
and like it just comes off as weird because you never see like any other like mixed alien race Viltrumite soldiers amongst the ranks.
That is
All look
true.
virtually identical to each other. They even
That is
established that
true.
they had a rule against that.
Against what?
Against like Viltrumites actually like having relations with some of the with like other races, like other alien races they were conquering.
That's one of the aspects of their race that doesn't really make any sense, right? Because the planet of Viltrum, as of right now, still exists, right? And they're trying to conquer
Yeah.
Earth without mating with them. So it kind of just like, why are you? I mean, I get it. They're trying to expand their influence, but part of integrating with another species is mating with them, or another race of people is mating with them. Like you can't really stop that from fucking happening. So that's kind of a part of the characterization of Viltrumites as a whole that doesn't make sense, whether it's the comic interpretation or the show. Like, what do you mean you're going to expand your influence and integrate with another planet and not mate with them? It doesn't really make sense, you know?
Yeah.
Looking at this list,
it's
I'm
really
kind of,
weird.
my bad. Looking at this list, I kind of see how much of this shit is actually kind of filler. Like, there's some plot points with
The
what
fish,
happens.
the ground,
Yeah, the fish.
yeah, the underwater.
Complete fucking filler. It doesn't really, it doesn't really do anything. Like, I get it. I
You know,
get
that
it.
gets to.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, which actually that leads to another thing I was gonna say. Yeah, there's a lot of characters in Invincible and like a lot of plots like that are supposed to continue like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, I have a hard time remembering most of the subplots that are supposed to be going on,
Yeah, that's what I was
and I
gonna
have a really
say.
hard time caring about any of them. Like, I even talked to some people that were watching the show. All they cared about was Omni-Man
All they cared about
and
was
the
the
Viltrumite plot.
continuation of the Viltrumite arc. Like, I don't really give a fuck about Mark and Amber's
Yeah.
relationship. I still don't believe they're in love because they do a horrible job compared to the book of actually showing their fucking relationship develop. I don't really give a fuck about the Guardian of the Globe shit and with Monster Girl and Robot. I don't care because they do a worse job in the book again. What else don't I give a fuck about?
Based, all the villains.
The death of Duplicate, which anyone with a working brain would have seen
Oh.
the twist behind that coming. How
Yeah,
Rex,
that was.
the fucking complete.
Also, how the fuck did Rex survive?
Apparently, he's extremely durable. It wasn't really played well in the comic either. I mean, he was a part of an experiment, just like Adam Eve was, and that's kind of how they explain his durability. However, bullet resistant does not mean bulletproof, and you know, a bullet. It's confirmed a bullet was in his brain, like it was in that bitch. Like, I thought he grazed him because it didn't really look like the bullet penetrated when it comes to this show, but it's confirmed the bullet was in his fucking brain. So I don't know how he survived. In my opinion, it's poor writing in both interpretations. Go ahead.
I saw it in the show. I saw like the bullet went through his brain all the way out like of his head. So I was like, how in the hell are you alive? And
he lost a lot of blood. Honestly, he shouldn't have survived. He really shouldn't have.
Like, he didn't just go through like a bullet in the brain. He lost a lot of blood. He shouldn't be like conscious or like have memory or have like the same personality. Like, there is too much blood loss and brain damage right there that he shouldn't have survived, much less make it out of.
I mean, I guess you.
And I think he should have already lost all the blood from losing his hand too. Like,
you can finagle an argument for why he survives because there is we don't know this at the time, so it's still kind of shitty, right? But like, you know, him having increased durability could be adequately explained if they actually revealed he was a test subject. But from what we know from Rex, he doesn't appear to be anyone with any sort of extraordinary abilities outside of being able to make things explode. That's really it.
Yeah, I thought he was just supposed to be like a somehow bigger asshole version of Bakugo with a weaker version of the explosion powers.
It really doesn't make any sense how he performs well in the field. Honestly, it just doesn't. He needs more training. Like, he's not like a Damian Wayne type or a Batman type.
Nah.
Like with a power like his, you would have to have other attributes to make that more effective, and he does nothing really to make that so. Like, he just doesn't.
His powers doesn't really have a lot of like variety
Applications.
to it. He just application. Like even Gambit has more variety used with his powers than
Well, Gambit knows martial arts,
whatever
and
the
he's
fuck Rex
way
calls
more
himself.
fucking powerful than fucking Rex. He's way more
Explode.
powerful.
Yeah, that's still a shit name.
It's pretty bad. That's kind of the point of Rex's character. He's just kind of an asshole, which I mean, that's cool, I guess. Whatever.
I mean,
That's
I know
another
that he was
thing.
supposed to be an asshole and get character development later on, but there's only he got too annoying that I stopped caring about his character getting any development in the future.
Yeah, the way they handle
And then him surviving
relationships-
that was absolute bullshit.
the way they handle relationships in this show is kind of shit too, because like, okay, we get it. Rexplode is an asshole. And we see Duplicate and Eve, you know, they're not portrayed in any sort of way where we're supposed to dislike them and we're supposed to see them as victims in their relationship dealings with Rex, right? But I mean, you knew Rex was an asshole before you dated him, yet you still chose to date him. So it's like, he's an asshole, and I don't dislike you, but you're the type of person who would willingly fuck an asshole who's not good for you. So why should I give a damn? Like, why should I care?
Why should I care that you got your heart broken when you know
When
what
you
you're
knew
getting
better?
yourself
Like,
into?
you knew what kind of person he was. Like, you're the type of person who fucks trash. Like, why should I feel bad for you? You know, like, that's kind
Speaking
of a problem
of victimization,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, speaking of victimization, they really try their damnedest to make you feel bad for Eve. Like,
I really don't.
like,
I mean, that's the thing, though. Her parents
like,
are like cartoonishly evil assholes. They're like out of shape. They're rude. They verbally and emotionally abuse their daughter. The dad doesn't listen to anything. And of course they are, because they're the only white couple with a white child in the fucking show. Like, oh yeah, of course they're bad people. We can't have a heterosexual white couple be viewed in a positive way.
Oy vey.
Like, it's like we see what you're doing, bro. Like, why? You know?
Ray Charles could see it.
gonna say
Fuck's
they're.
sake.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
and
been
also
a while
just like
since
why would you constantly beat on the most powerful character in the show? Like, you're asking to get the fucking Carrie treatment from out of Eve one day, man.
I do have to put this disclaimer in here. It's been a while since I'd finished the comic series, like about a fucking year and some change. So, like, if the family of Adam and Eve is portrayed the same way as they are in the books, then okay, I mean, I'm still not gonna excuse it, because I know why they decided to keep that characterization. However, if it's the same, then I mean, okay, but everything around it isn't the same. Like, it's no accident that there's no other white couple in the show. It's just not. It's not an accident. It's a bunch of interracial couples, a bunch of brown people, vaguely brown people, and white mothers with brown kids. Like, that's just not an accident.
No, it's not.
It's just.
But yeah, back to the main point. None of the subplots matter at all until we get to Angstrom Levy, which is the only other subplot that kind of matters, because he's gonna have some things to do with a sort of Viltrumite-ish invasion that I don't want to spoil. So I mean, he's being set up to be Mark's arch nemesis. So yeah, I kind of hate that I'm not gonna lie, I did like the Invincible Spider-Man crossover, because like I said, the comics are just better. They just are.
Yeah, Spider-Man. They did treat Spider-Man right in that comic.
And for the show's credit, obviously they couldn't remake it completely because of copyright and shit, but I do respect their try. They avoided copyright just
I'm
enough.
I'm surprised they managed to actually. I'm surprised the comic books actually managed to be able to do a crossover like that too, because especially with how Marvel is nowadays. And I did like how they brought back Josh Keaton to voice their quote unquote not Spider-Man character
Yeah, Agent
in
Spider.
Invincible. Agent Spider. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't DC have an Agent Spider character, or was it, or how did they name that character?
I forgot his name, but it was a similar motif.
Wasn't it like
Tarantula or
is
something?
he DC? No. It was just like like I thought it was like Agent Spider or something like that.
I know the character you're talking
what was
about. I
his name?
remember his design, but I can't for the life of me remember his hero name.
He's not a hero. He's a villain.
Oh, you know what I meant. Like the name
In
of this
DC, no, he was a
character.
bad guy. Black Spider, that's what it was.
Black Spider.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Okay. But to sum up
Okay,
my
I see what you did.
to sum up my fucking like biggest issue with season 2 of Invincible, like we're really just waiting for them to get to the parts that matter. Everything else is kind of filler. Like Mark and Amber break up because Amber
Thank God.
couldn't take the heat, so she had to get the fuck out of the kitchen. So okay, I get it, whatever. But
Thank God,
I
I'm
just
finally.
didn't care. I just didn't give a fuck about it. I'm sorry. They didn't do a good job of making the audience actually care about their relationship. And what I don't like is that some people think that interest should translate from the character you've spent the most time with to the thing that's the current subject, right? So they think that because we know Mark and we like Mark a lot, that same interest should extend to whatever Mark likes as a character. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. Like, there's a reason why we have mutual friends that we don't really talk to, bro. Like, we have acquaintances. Like, just because you're his friend and I'm his friend doesn't mean you're my friend. You know what I mean? So I don't understand that rhetoric.
Yeah.
I don't understand that rhetoric.
Maybe some people just want to be friends with everybody, man. You never,
No, it's that it's
what's wrong with
that
being friends with everyone?
I don't know. Like, it's that they give the same interest to something the character likes, even though it's not really warranted. Like it's hard to explain, but I don't understand their reasoning behind it.
Also,
but it's kind of like because Mark cares about this, you should care too. And it's like, why? Why should I care too? Because you like Mark, don't you? It's like, yeah, but
Spider-Man and like every other and like most other Marvel DC heroes are managed to establish better ways of making you care about the side characters that the main hero cares about.
Yeah, like Human Torch was
making it out of obligation.
Human Torch was Spider-Man's best friend, but that was because you saw their fucking relationship develop. You actually believed that Pete was in love with Mary Jane because you saw their relationship develop. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, wait, let's use the non-superhero.
You can't just front load care for a character. That's not how that shit works. So, like, overall, season 2 was just a fucking waste of time for most of it, and we're really just waiting to the part where Omni-Man and Mark finally team up against the Viltrumite Empire, and we see Alan's role in it and shit like that. We that's really what we're waiting on. Like, they kind of just, even that fucking subplot with the Sequids. Did you remember that shit?
From season 1, briefly, and also I feel like they should have just thrown that alien dude on the, like, just left them with the alien race that got screwed over by the Sequids.
I mean, they did a payoff.
More problems for yourself by taking him back with you.
They ended up saving him, but the thing is, the Sequids come back in a very stupid way. Like, I don't know if you watched that episode in season 2. You did? Did you see how he got possessed?
Yeah, I saw the whole thing.
Did you see how he got possessed?
Yeah,
again?
I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I was like, are you serious?
Like, it doesn't. Why? Okay, it doesn't really make sense, right? But what did you think when you saw that?
Because they used that machine already. I was just kind of tired because I was like, really? We're gonna keep this plot going with amongst all the other ones that are still going on. And also it just doesn't make sense in universe because they used that machine like twice to disable or like all the sequids and all that. So the guy still having shit inside of like one inside of him was just shock factor or just a really bad excuse to get that plot running again.
I mean, he was
And I
rescued
still
by Cecil.
honestly
He was rescued by Cecil and his dudes. So, like, wouldn't they have tested him or something to make sure there was no sequids tagging along in his intestinal tract?
you would think.
Like, how would they
So
miss?
I find it really I don't know how you would miss that, but I also just find it really weird that they kept the alien dude. I forgot what did they call him in the show again?
I think they call
The
him
one that
Shapesmith.
the alien that dude that Shapesmith, yeah. Why would you take him back with you? At that point, I would have left his ass behind.
I mean,
It'll
apparently
cause
he's being
nothing but
punished.
problems for everybody.
He's being punished. They rescue him because they don't believe in the death penalty or some shit. Because Mark was the one who made the final say to run away from the other aliens and take them back to Earth. Like, I mean, I don't know why. Because Cecil was going to punish him anyway. They weren't going to kill him, but they were going to punish him. The reason why they decided to stick around with him during the second invasion is because he had the most information. After that, he's not very useful. So I don't even know what they're going to do to punish him. I have no clue.
Yeah, I know why they kept him during the invasion, but I mean, like, well, for one, and Mark should not really get the final say in what goes on with Shapesmith's life, because he barely even shows up with the team. He has, like, no relationship with anyone in the team outside of Eve, who herself is not really part of the team either.
Technically the Immortal. Technically through his father.
But the Immortal hates Mark for the most part, and also I really find it. Also, they keep bringing back characters that were like brutally killed in like the first season. They keep bringing them back in like so many ways, and I just lost interest in that too. Like the Immortal, they brought him back to life.
He
the
only
dude that was
got
working
brought
for
back
Cecil
once so far.
Yeah, but like the whole point of him getting killed in the first place was for shock factor, and they weren't really doing much with this character even after bringing him back. He just has a lot of broken mental issues. Like he's becoming more of a liability than he is an actual leader.
I mean, that was really only after the supposed death of Duplicate, and I don't want to spoil that for people who might want to watch. I don't know who would want to watch this, honestly, but
he had really bad like mental issues because he's still pissed off that Omni-Man killed him.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's right.
Remember, he was about to fight Alan, even though Alan has nothing to do with Omni-Man.
He would get folded in half by Alan. It's not even fucking funny.
Yeah. Okay, Immortal should have like went to go see and then should have stopped and been like, oh, I thought you were someone else. My bad.
There's not really much more to talk about. I'm sorry. Like going through this list, there's a lot of filler that I didn't realize. There's not really much more to talk about. Like after the Sequid thing and after the introduction of Angstrom Levy and the fucking what else?
Oh, could we talk about how they handled him at the end?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. Because that's really the last important thing. After he goes through all the multiverses and dimensions and shit, Mark has a near homicidal experience in which he's forced to defend himself with lethal force against Angstrom Levy, and then I'm not gonna lie to you, they did this in the comic too, where he basically kills, quote unquote, kills Angstrom Levy in like this abandoned universe that's been destroyed, huh?
You said quote unquote.
Yeah, he essentially kills him in that abandoned dimension. And I was gonna bring up a contrived moment where he gets saved by other members of the Guardians of the Globe from the future, and it's kind of like, how did this shit happen? Whatever, I don't know. It didn't really pan out well in the book either, because it just felt very contrived. Like obviously Angstrom Levy was his only way of getting out of that place. I guess, I don't know, the writers just had to come up with something or whatever, but
the writers were definitely running out of ideas at that part.
Yeah.
Also, I think Angstrom, like I know what they were going for with him, but like I feel like he could have done. I feel like he lowballed on Mark. He could. Like, I don't know what the point of just sending him to a bunch of random universes was all about. Like,
He was trying to
he was
kill
just
him
fucking with him
in
for the most part.
he wanted him to die horribly by sending him to some dimensions that were tough, but that really doesn't make sense considering what he ends up doing. Like, if he wanted to do it, like yeah, that's another thing. He says, I wanted to do it myself. That's why I came back. And it's like, okay, then what the fuck was the point?
Why did you do it then?
What the fuck was the point of all this?
And he also said that he wants to hurt him in like the most in the best way possible. So, and he already had the family like, at his beck and call to kill at any moment. He could have just done that immediately.
Again, to be fair, that's something that's from the books. So like a lot of the bad decisions,
too, man. I'm sorry, okay? I can't defend that.
No, I know. I'm just saying, I'm not defending it. I'm saying like we can't really blame the writers of the show this time because they actually did stick to the source material. But like I say all the time, if it's bad in the source material, it's gonna be bad on screen. So whatever.
Which also runs back to what I was telling you before we did the show, because they do have the original writers of the show working on it.
You did say
the original writer of the book is working on the show, yeah.
Yeah, and I said they have no integrity.
So I find it kind of, it's even more egregious now because not only are they still adapting all the worst parts of their own work.
Yeah.
Let the whoever is designated in the DEI, I guess, walk all over them and not at all trying to fight back against it. It's dumb.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking horrendous. Like if I were to give a rating for even counting season 1, if I were gonna give it a rating so far, this show is a 3 out of 10, bro. I'm sorry.
To mention all the overuse of cartoonish gore, in my opinion.
Not only like the show would be a 5 if it weren't for the ideology, because then at least it would be bad on its own merits. But here's the thing: they completely alter the personality of Mark Grayson from the fucking books. They don't write it as a parody and instead want to make this a serious show, even though the premise of the original book wasn't serious at all, save for a few storylines that were actually kind of cool. I'm hoping they do one of them that I'm not gonna say. You have the fucking DEI and critical theory shit that they plaster throughout the show. And you have a whole bunch of contrived shit, which, by the way, I already said a lot of that contrived shit is from the books, but it doesn't matter. But this show is an example of all style and no substance. Also, the dialogue a lot of the times is really fucking bad. It's horrible. The animation suffers a lot too at points. Like if you've ever seen the still images of some of these characters in the background, they look like fucking mannequins. It's horrible.
Bro, the show itself like even pokes at its own fucking shenanigans with the background art and all that. You can't
lampshade bad animation, dude. Like it's still bad. It doesn't make it acceptable.
Like imagine being when the animators working on the show having just having that being called out like that, like just. Your own boss is basically calling you out on your work. It's like Jesus.
Yeah, I don't understand the hype behind this show at all, and I'll just be glad.
Oh, because it was. It's because it was basically another like edgy superhero show with the blood.
But is
and
it
gore.
really edgy though? Like
Omni-Man being so strong he could be powers. And Omni-Man being so strong, you get to use him in versus matches with Superman or Goku or all that shit, or Saitama or all that shit.
I don't mind the versus.
Be a bunch of people who ride on hype and people who ride on power scaling. That's what the vibe I got out of this.
I mean, yeah,
like the only ones who were actually watching it.
This is an example of like a show that's basically all style and absolutely no fucking substance. Like the art style is good, and that's the best thing I can say about the show. That's really it. Also, some of the character designs are pretty cool too. Like Octobos, I really liked him. He was a cool looking villain. Mm-hmm. But like I said, like it's flecks of gold in a mountain of shit. It's not really that great, bro.
J.K. Simmons trying to carry the show as Omni-Man.
He's really Omni-Man is carrying. Alan's pretty cool too, but
yeah, Omni-Man hard carrying the show.
He got the show on his back, but I mean that's all I could have to say about this show. You guys have any other thoughts before we wrap up the stream.
Pretty much said my piece now, especially about the blood and gore bit. What about you, Wes?
Oh yeah, okay. I think I have one more thing about the blood and gore bit. People have a very warped view of maturity. Like when you put in a bunch of cuss words and gore, suddenly the show is mature. What? Like the gore isn't
That
even
mindset has
necessary in a lot
to
of
go.
places. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that mindset has to go because, dear Christ, that's so childish. Ironically, it's a childish mindset. The original Justice League show had way less blood, way less blood, way less cuss words, and it still outclasses Invincible in every freaking regard.
Yeah.
And I say the original Justice League show because I feel like that's what Invincible was trying to the coattails of.
It emulated it
in
a
terms
lot,
of how
but
it's
it
set
didn't
up.
land the same because the writing wasn't as good. It just wasn't.
And its characters are just so messy, and like I already went through Watchmen and The Boys. I could really use a lot less messy superhero characters now.
Yeah, you're not gonna find it from this show though.
No.
So Wes, you had something you wanted to talk about during sign off. I'll let you go first. If you're still on the mic, that is.
I don't think he's on the mic right now. I think we could move on to start closing.
Okay, well, I mean, that's all three of the topics we have for this evening. Hopefully next week we'll have some better ones. Ones that are a little bit more topical and a bit more in depth. It's been a pretty slow week when it comes to new things that are happening in entertainment because there's not really a lot of things that are going on, to be completely honest with you. That's why I'm going to have to start watching some shows that I really don't want to, just to have things to cover, because I mean, they're still important, right? Like if I'm going to choose to cover these topics, I have to reluctantly engage in some of them, but it's going to be from the streaming services I already have. Like I'm not buying another streaming service just to review the shit. Like the Disney Plus shows will view vicariously through other people's interviews or reviews of it and synopses, but I guess I'll watch
or through other, of course, very legal means.
Oh my god. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, very, very legal. Don't worry, guys.
But yeah, this is.
And I'm just gonna send you,
Okay.
like some topics for next time. See if I find any.
Yeah, we already have a couple in mind. I just have to read up on those before I'm prepared to actually speak on them, because I don't want to just wing it when it comes to those, because there's like lawsuits and shit involved with them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this has been your episode of the Monkey's Paw, episode 15. We've been going on a while, man.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyways,
you're back.
Oh, now he's back.
You're back.
I just went for a moment to get a cup of coffee.
Well,
Yeah,
we
you
just finished up on everything. So, do you got any last thoughts?
No, but I have updates if anyone wants to hear them out. And Toasty asked me a question a little bit ago, and I wanted to answer it. And honestly, no, I'm not tired. I'm mentally tired, but I'm not physically tired. First thing. Secondly, to answer your question, I'm not sure. I might factor it into my Clean the Earth Market Style episode 5 video, but that's already going to be a multi-parter because of the generator tech advancements, explaining about power, about energy, and all these other things. And and I already have a video where I already talk about, I explain over unity, what the real concept, not the fraudulent claim that the phrase "free energy is the well poisoning thereof." It's ultimately about opening a device up to allow multiple inputs to do the same, to work for your. It basically means figuring out ways to make more work done than what you put in with your individual input, which already implies opening to multiple inputs, as well as when you manifest energy, and you put it to work which is what power is, getting as much power or work done out of that same energy expression once it's manifested. And that basically can imply a lot of different open system thermodynamics and all sorts of other things that I'm having that. I was refilming that. I'm already gonna make a response to a video by Driving for Answer. It was a auto mechanic and engineering channel, and he said some pro-commie rhetoric that really pissed me off. And shit's about to get flung. Was going to be flung. That will be, shit will get flung there. I'm going to do a condensed down version of my greatest auto mechanic lie in history debunking. It's going to be a 2-part thing instead. So see if more people will watch it. I'm also going to it's going to be a video. I'm going to do some self-censoring so I can actually, algorithmically try to tweak shit a little more towards my favor.
Is there like a community post you can direct them to get the rest of the like the updates and stuff for your next videos?
Technically, no. What I'll do is I'm going to do an update. You can just go to my channel and just keep an eye out on my channel if you want to do that. It's Derpy Redneck. You'll find it. If Kaine wants to link that, feel free. All he's got to do is ask me, and I'll DM them the link to the channel.
If you want to, you can just put it. You can just put it in the chat history right down there if you want to right now.
Right, I'm not signed in on the browser right now. I'm privately browsing. Anyways, another thing is, I'm trying. I had to shave my hair and my beard. I shaved all of it off. I'm completely shaved down, bald all over. Because of the gut biome fuckery from when I got sick with the vomiting the vomiting virus and the flu, the badass flu double whammy. And I've gotten about 98% of my voice back. I can't do certain high pitch singing notes, and I can't do my clown horn sound effect, and a couple other things I still can't do, even though it's been a couple months. Had some other IRL shit going on, and I've gotten back to. I re-recorded some films. I got myself, and since I had nothing to contribute, and it would just been waffling on my part. A lot of the time when I didn't talk, I was reading about the thorium nuclear power with thorium, and apparently there are a few ways to do it, and I think these tricks can be factored into microreactors. These are nuclear reactors you can carry inside of an 18-wheel truck and trailer. Hilariously,
we got to wrap it up here in the next minute.
No, it's fine. I'm about done. I might factor that stuff in, those advances in that video topic. I'm gonna try to get to where I'm gonna do a couple live streams with a few people. Reacting to certain videos that pissed myself and certain others off. Then, yeah. And I'm going to try to get the rest of my video to-do list out of the way so I can start getting back to just sticking to the gameplay podcast. Start archiving the videos I want archived over on Rumble one by one. It's going to be a tedious twat. But I'm going to do it because, MAOTUBE is not my friend, clearly.
Okay. All right, so that's the sign off for the stream, guys. Like I said, we'll try to get some more topics in for the next episode, but for now, this is your gracious host, Kaine Walker, signing off, and we'll see you guys again next time. Peace.
Yeah. Peace, everyone.
All right, I'm going to try to sign in now.
This that was weird.
All right, let me see.
Oh, the girls are gone. Never mind. Oh, wait,
They're in
they're on.
one-on-one
Oh, they're on a different channel.